Welcome once more to Owanapaedia, your one-stop center for the history of this country. Mine is Tony Geoffrey Owana, and in charge of all operations is my second in command and also the other ranks of this three-man unit, Herbert Semiano, son of the one and only Corporal Matov Samuel, who has since reposed. May his soul rest in eternal peace, Corporal. But I know that even as I speak, when Nabanke Mahabati's mother watches some of these programs, he said, "Thank God for having given me this cowboy." May his soul rest in peace once again. But don't cry. Today, we are again taking a trip into the history of this country. And although some of you may claim to have heard this story or seen it before, it is the story of the first year of what was described as the Second Republic of Uganda. What was that? That was the period of 365 days after Major General Idi Amin Dada overthrew his master and protege, Dr. Apollo Milton Obote, on the 25th of January 1971. It's not very long ago. I was in P3 at Mugwanya Preparatory School, Kaboja, when this event happened. I want to talk about you.
Tony Owana really loves our history. He has a passion for doing research, and he shares all this history with you so that you can make informed choices.
Banange, have you subscribed to Owanapaedia? I don't know what you are waiting for.
And he shares all this history with you so that you can make informed choices.
January the 25th, 1971, the beginning of a new and important chapter in the history of East Africa. The Army's takeover and the events that followed the beginning of the Second Republic opened a new era of progress and freedom for the people of Uganda, and how they celebrated.
Shortly after taking power, Amin did a lot of wonderful things, at least as far as appeasing and ameliorating the condition of some suffering Ugandans was concerned. One, he lifted the curfew that had persisted in Buganda region from 1966 to 1971, 6 years. Two, he released political prisoners, some of who Owanapaedia has had occasion to interview who are still alive. Three, he did something which the Baganda will never forget him for a long time. He prepared for the return of the remains of Sir Edward Mutesa, who had died in exile, and that alone made many people ignore the fact that he had directly participated in attacking the Kabaka in his palace, chasing him out into exile, where he died. But reconciliation meant that those could be forgotten. Then he woke up one day with a dream which told him to chase away all the Asians who were non-citizens, which he did, and Ugandans took over their premises. What they did with them afterwards is another matter. Amin at that time was very, very, very popular. Let's take a look at the events as they unfolded at the time, courtesy of Owanapaedia.
January the 25th, 1971, the beginning of a new and important chapter in the history of East Africa. The Army's takeover and the events that followed the beginning of the Second Republic opened a new era of progress and freedom for the people of Uganda, and how they celebrated. high hopes of 1962 had long turned to ashes. The bright new future which everybody had once hailed had become lost in the exercise of dictatorial powers, in corruption and foolish extravagance, in favoritism and nepotism. But now the soldiers had brought hope again. This was not so much a military coup, it was the army expressing the wishes of a vast majority of the people and achieving it for them. Obote, the man who had assumed the presidency by unconstitutional means, had fled, leaving behind him broken promises, high taxation, full internment centers, and the seeds of internal strife. In two of his residences, huge quantities of arms were found. There were thousands of boxes containing such weapons as rocket launchers, heavy mortars, and bazookas. This could only have been intended for use against his own countrymen. And it's now known that there was in fact a plot to murder high-ranking army officers, including Major General Idi Amin Dada himself. The cabinet had been training its own private army to overthrow the regular troops, but the soldiers thwarted the attack, and so real freedom came again to Uganda. The release of the political detainees followed almost immediately, and there were tremendous scenes of jubilation at Kololo airstrip. 50,000 people gathered to see the 55 detainees, including 5 former ministers, brought to the airstrip in prison buses. It was indeed a day to be remembered, a day when history was made. Many of them had been detained without proper trial since 1966, when ex-President Obote seized complete power. Now they were free again. Detention was used by Obote and the chief of the General Service Unit, his cousin Akena Adoko, to silence all opposition to the regime. No man could raise his voice in safety against the increasing infamy which spread across the land like a cancer. Ex-ministers, members of parliament, and ordinary citizens, no one was safe except those who supported the man who had brought Uganda to near dictatorship. But men with courage did exist. Many, like those freed today, paid the price of bravery, but others stayed to lead the nation to freedom and true independence once again. The welcome given to the military head of state was tremendous. The ordinary people of Uganda rallied. To the detainees, Major General Amin said, "In a few moments, you will be free and will join the rest of free Ugandans. You are joining them at a time of great excitement and joy." On the political front, the new regime moved fast. On February the 5th, 3 days after a proclamation had removed Obote from the presidency, stripped his cabinet of all executive powers, and suspended parliament, members of the new administration were sworn in by the Chief Justice, Sir Damon Sheridan, at Kololo airstrip. Thousands upon thousands of people were there to cheer Major General Idi Amin Dada as he arrived. Then the salute was taken. A 21-gun salute underlined the solemnity of the occasion. The guard of honor was mounted by men of the Uganda Army. After these ceremonies, the army promoted Major General Idi Amin to the rank of General, and a little later he accepted the high office of President of the Second Republic of Uganda. Then the main ceremony of the day began. The head of the military government, holding the Quran in his right hand, took the oath of allegiance, swearing to serve all the people of Uganda without fear or favor, affection or ill will. The man who had already expressed the wishes of the people by assuming power was already high in their esteem, but the events which were to follow were to make him a figure of even greater respect and admiration. Then, one by one, 14 of the 17 new ministers, holding the book of their respective faiths, promised to serve the Republic truly and well at all times, to give advice to the head of state for the good of Uganda, and to reveal no secrets acquired in the performance of their duty directly or indirectly. Each member of the new cabinet had been carefully chosen for his ability and known honesty. Most were civil servants, men with experience in the running of their own departments. This choice of a technocrat cabinet had been taken by the head of state in order to continue the affairs of government with a minimum of disruption, and also that the planned reorganization of the country should be effected without indulgence in political extravagance. These new ministers, he felt, were the best and most experienced brains in the country. They had been chosen without political, religious, or any other bias, simply to do a job they were well equipped to do. Soon after becoming president, General Amin was to make his position clear. His government, he said, intended to clean up the country. As soon as the commissions of inquiry had reported, and he had had a chance to put the affairs of the country in order, free and fair elections would be held. Great responsibility rested on these men, and in the year that followed, they were to prove amply their ability to do the job of putting the nation back on its feet and lead the people back to an era of freedom and opportunity for all. General Idi Amin Dada has often expressed the intentions and aims of his administration. Our motto will be practical action, he has said. We aim to make Uganda secure and peaceful in order to hasten the return to democratic civilian rule with safeguards against a recurrence of the political oppression of the last regime. We want Ugandans to feel free in their own country. The ceremony ended with the head of state taking the salute. Men of the army and vehicles of the mechanized regiment passed in review. That evening, there was an official reception at State House in Tebe, which was attended by over 1,000 guests. 3 of the ministers designate had not taken the oath of allegiance at Kololo. One of them, Lieutenant Colonel Obitri Gama, was in Trinidad and would be sworn in on his return. The other 2 had been on their way back from Addis Ababa, but now they had arrived, and the ceremony took place during the reception. An early promise kept by the new government was the return to Uganda of the body of the nation's first president, Sir Edward Mutesa. Sir Edward had escaped to England in 1966 when Obote assumed the presidency. He died there in 1969. Now he was brought back to lie among his people, and his return was an occasion of sad remembrance. President Idi Amin Dada is a great believer in working with the people, explaining his government's aims and asking for help in the tasks which lie ahead. With this in mind, he has visited all parts of the country, and everywhere he went, he was left in no doubt as to his own personal popularity. Sparing nothing of himself, he has met the people and their local leaders. He has addressed them on all aspects of his plans. He has told them what he wants for Uganda and for them, and he has asked for their full support. There can be no shadow of a doubt that he will get it. Indeed, the progress made during the first year of the Second Republic has proved it. Law and order is being established, political discrimination and fear has gone for good, corruption and racketeering is being stamped on hard. The press has been freed. Now the way ahead is clear for all to see. It requires only honest government and goodwill, and the hard work of everybody to achieve it. The people of Uganda have learned from their sad experience, and by the reception that the president received everywhere he went, it's clear that they have no intention of letting it happen again. The Obote coup, the military counter-coup, these were only the touch paper that ignited the people's resolve to get something better for themselves and their country. President Idi Amin Dada is the focus of that desire, and how they cheered him, how they laughed and sang and danced. This is what they had always wanted. Even after a few months, the effects of the change of government and the success of this new administration were being seen. Not the least among the president's stated aims had clearly been achieved. Ugandans were now free to live in a free Uganda and could rest assured that henceforward political and personal opinions would be no bar to their progress or their contentment. Everywhere, a new spirit of service to the nation was apparent. Yes, Uganda was enjoying her second independence. The achievements of this first year of the Second Republic are manifold, but probably the most important are the ones which concern the home front and its economy. So now at last, after 5 years of torment, the land, which Sir Winston Churchill described as a fairy tale, has got back to what it hoped to be in 1962. A fairy tale? Yes, but today a fairy tale based on reality. The people can settle down to work again to produce the food the nation needs. In the fields and plantations, there is a new confidence. But it isn't only the people of Uganda. Confidence abroad is everything. And now tourists will feel secure again to enjoy the incomparable scenery and wildlife of Uganda. You climb up a railway instead of a beanstalk, and at the top there is a wonderful new world, Churchill said. And to the tourists who will now come in larger numbers than ever before, it is undoubtedly true. In Kampala in particular, this feeling of confidence can be experienced. Economically, things improve with every day that passes. The needless extravagance in high places has gone. Like everybody else, the administration has a job to do and does it without flamboyance and expense. There is development to be seen, but not as once in only those areas which suited the government for political ends. To serve all the people of Uganda without fear of favor, affection, or ill will. Those are the words of the oath. Industry and overseas investment received a serious setback when the Obote regime announced its 60-40 takeover arrangements. In the first place, the nation could not afford it. And in the second, he successfully destroyed any confidence an overseas investor might have felt. Now it's different. The 49-51 arrangement, announced by President Amin on May Day, leaves control in the hands of the people who own the plant and still ensures that Uganda gets a fair reward. I want to make it abundantly clear, the President said, that my government's policy is to see to it that Ugandans participate fully in the industrial and commercial activities of the nation. To this end, all companies will be required to submit a program of Ugandanization. Together with the dedicated support of the workers of Uganda, we shall march forward to a brighter future for all. But while a generation that have known oppression celebrate, it is to the future of Uganda that all eyes must turn. It will be for the youth of today to profit from the experience of their elders. For them, the events of January 1971 mean that they can live without fear in a free country where the diverse skills they are now learning can be used for the common good and to advance Uganda's status and position in world affairs. The Obote regime, while professing great interest in education, had tried to turn it into a political instrument. In October 1970, a law was passed putting Makerere University under the direction of the government and making the appointment of professors and deans political appointments. It was proved right at the start of the first year of the Second Republic that people cannot be forced for long to sacrifice their freedom. They will only support in full an administration in which they have faith. Faith that what is done for the ultimate well-being of everybody. Make no mistake about it, January the 25th was no long-planned military operation. It was a people's rising, the expression of a long pent-up hatred of tyranny. The spontaneous enthusiasm which the people showed the soldiers a year ago continues unabated today, for they represent the wishes of the great majority. The people's aim is identical with that of their president. and they join with him when he said, "All I want is a clean, honest future, a second future, a chance for all of us to make good."
That was the first 365 days. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it was in the month of May when President Amin told the country that he was going to return power to civilian rule in direct elections and warned that the army would always be on standby to intervene in case, in his own words, the politicians brought back their corruption. It never happened. It took another 7 years for a combined force of Ugandans in exile and the Tanzanian army to overthrow him by force of arms. 2, the following year, people began disappearing in larger numbers, and these were big people, not the small fish, the Owanas in their villages. Chief Justice, Governor Bank of Uganda, ministers in his own cabinet, senior army officers, public servants. People began disappearing. Others were killed, others fled to exile. But the gist of what you have just seen is for you to look at those 365 days and see what amount of promise Uganda had at the time. Sadly, 2-3 years down the road, those hopes had been dashed. But that history is worth watching. Courtesy of Owanapaedia, the one-stop center for the history of this country. Tony Geoffrey Owana and Herbert Semiano. Over to you as you get ready to subscribe.
Owanapaedia to me, Owanapaedia for history. If we go, Owanapaedia to me.
Banange, have you subscribed to Owanapaedia? I don't know what you are waiting for.
Owanapaedia to me, Owanapaedia for history.